Camden, Big Sandy, and Brewston. Today's program after this.
For more than 85 years, Apex Bank of Camden has built a tradition of local people serving local people. Although there have been changes over the years, this one thing remains the same. Hometown people that are your friends serving you every day to meet your financial needs. We want to see you grow and prosper. And when you ever have a need, you'll get personal attention right here at home, not in some far-off corporate office. Number one in customer service. Apex Bank of Camden, Benton County's best bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Operation 7570 on this Saturday. Great to have you with us, whether you're watching us by Facebook Live today, joined us by WRJB, Magic 95.9, joined us by WRJBradio.com. Regardless of how you have joined us today, we're glad to have you along for the next few moments, and glad that you've taken the time to spend some Saturday morning minutes with us on this beautiful, beautiful spring day. The last 2 or 3 days have really felt like spring, maybe for the first time all season. And our guest live in the studios today is the principal of Camden Central High School. This is our pal that we go a long way back with, Principal Shawn McDowell. And Mr. McDowell, welcome to the program today.
Flash, thank you so much for the invitation. It is a beautiful spring day. We've had lots of people dealing with pollen, but they love to see the sunshine and the blue skies.
I think we're here, and it's a pleasure to have you. Of course, we visit with you on a regular basis in our capacities, other capacities, of course. Interviewed you several times, but I think this is the first opportunity we've had to welcome you to Operation 7570, and it's indeed an honor today. So again, thank you very much. Has it been a good year so far at CHS?
You know, this year started out with still lots of speculation as to how things would go and so forth and so on, but the goal was for us to get our students back to re-engaged and to have our students start to take ownership of their learning. That was a big theme that we had for this year. And you know what? I think we're headed in that direction and really have turned out to have a successful year.
Lots of activity. We were just talking before we went on the air. Of course, Thursday night, the 4-H Awards Banquet out at CHS. I know we had the district basketball tournament, and it's good. It's great to have these community events back in the school like we're accustomed to, like we had to do away with a little while.
You know, there for a little while, we weren't able to have those, and getting the chance to be able to do some things like some firsts. We hadn't had a district tournament in over 50 years at Camden Central High School. Those are some exciting times. But for the most part, we're back to doing what we should be doing. We've got our students engaged in learning. We've got them celebrating some of the successes they have. We've got them making their own community, and really that's a lot of fun.
Well, let's go back. Of course, you've been in our midst a few years now, like one of us. You are one of us, of course, but let's go way back. What is your background, and how did your career, the things you've done in your career, and how did that ultimately lead to your position at principal of CHS?
Okay, so I am a graduate of Roane County High School in Kingston, Tennessee. Went off to college, first off to a junior college, and then later I went to get my bachelor's at MTSU in geoscience. In geography, and then I graduated from MTSU in 1991, worked on my master's at Carson Newman and worked as a graduate assistant baseball coach there and a graduate assistant athletic trainer there. And that 91 to 93 period, finding teaching jobs was really difficult, and there was a plan that you know, I was going to find a place that offered me a job and then work from there, and sort of look what happened. I met Ron Espy and Coach Newsom at a Tennessee Athletic Coaches Association meeting. I had my resume up on the board. They were looking for a coach, and they were looking for a teacher, and I said, hey, I fit both of those. So I moved here. During that time, coached for 3 years, taught for 3 years, got to know the community, met my wife. We got engaged. She was finishing pharmacy school, and as we got engaged and made plans to get married, if she was going to get her rotations for pharmacy school completed, it would have been in different towns and different communities, and we wouldn't have been able to be together. So we moved to Knoxville, where we could get them all done at the same time, actually to my hometown. I coached there for 3 years and then came back. Mr. Key called me and asked me if I'd have interest in coming back home. And my wife was really interested in having her family network there to help with raising our kids. And I've been here since, let's see, I came here originally in 93, and I came back in the summer of 1999. Taught, coached football, coached baseball, and eventually became an assistant principal under Miss Phelps. And then when Miss Phelps retired, I got the chance to be principal, and I've been there, I think, since 2015. The years run together.
They do.
Now.
They really, really do. Yeah, but we appreciate you so very much. Kids, graduates of CHS, and raising families out in their own career right now, and grandpas in the future. I understand. Congratulations.
You know, I'm a lucky man. I tell people all the time. I said I've got a wife. I've got 4 children, or 3 daughters, a son, and a granddaughter, and we got another grandchild on the way. So just really a very blessed man in a lot of different ways. I always said that I wanted to have a big family, and the good Lord gave me the chance.
Teaching, coaching, jobs, and education, was that always something you wanted to do coming up in Roane County, growing up over there, Coach?
Well, I always mention coaching, but part of that goes all the way back to my father. He was a well-known athlete, played high school ball at the school that I graduated from. He went off to college. I was born while he was in college, and he was playing basketball. He was an athlete. He was a part of a team that went to the national tournament in NAIA back several years ago. Got drafted to play for the ABA in late rounds. He didn't end up going, but he was a draftee for the ABA. The Dallas Chaparrals, I think, is who it was. So I was always around sports, and as I got to where I was in college, I came to realize I wanted to be involved in it from there on out, and so that made there's an interesting story that happened with this. I told my father, I said, I think I want to be a teacher and a coach, and he asked me a question that was pretty poignant. He said, why would anybody want to hire you as a teacher or a coach? And I said, well, Dad, I started to stumble about it. He said, I'm not asking you that question because I don't think you can, but you have to be able to sell someone on the reason why you should. And I thought about it for a little while, and I said, I do believe I'm that guy that can help move someone from where they're at to becoming more successful, or have a chance to be able to chase their dreams, or to be able to be successful on an athletic field. And I said, if I believe I'm that guy, then yes, this is what I should do. And he said, if you got that kind of answer, then you'll probably do a good job. I don't know if that ever turned out to be true or not, but that was sort of the changing point that made me say, this is what I want to do.
If you could look back 25, 30 years right now, would you do it all over again?
I do believe that when you get into education, it needs to be a calling. It's not going to be for money reasons. It's not going to be for the limelight. There's going to be a lot of work that goes on behind it. But if you have a real need to be able to help others, if you are a people person, if you're one that wants them to make themselves better, if you want to be a reason why someone has a chance for success, then teaching's the only way to go. And I still believe that, even in a world where things have changed so much and so forth and so on, we still have students that want to learn and they want to be successful, and we want to give them that opportunity.
There have always been challenges in education, and things change. As you well know, they change consistently on a daily basis. But as we come out of the pandemic, we're still not 100% where we need to be, but much better than we were 2 years ago, as we talked about before we went on the air. But 2 years ago, Mr. McDowell, was that the most challenging thing you and your staff ever had to deal with?
So, I try to have perspective as to things that go on, and I get the chance to see how people respond because that's part of my job. This pandemic for this generation is a defining moment. It is a time, the pandemic was a time when people didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know if they were going to be around. They didn't know who all was going to be sick. And, I always have pause because we've lost a lot of loved ones through this, that, we have the honor of still being here and the chance to be able to have that pause and think about them. But also we have the responsibility of helping people to move on and still be able to live their lives. And that challenge for this generation reminds me of what it might have been like when the bombing of Pearl Harbor occurred, or when people were going under the draft to go to Vietnam. People didn't know exactly what was going to happen. There was lots of questions in their minds. And that sort of happened with this pandemic. We didn't know what was going to happen or how it was going to work out. And so for us, every single system that we had in the school, whether it was how they came into the building, what we were doing to make sure that we kept things sanitary, what we did when we found out someone was positive and how we cleaned up and things like that, all of those systems had to be put into place, even down to how much space we had between people or how much space we had to have in order to have a ball game or to have an event. And always trying to keep people in mind that it wasn't just the students there, it was their families and their loved ones and the elderly that they were around. We wanted to do things to protect them. Those challenges were really hard. But now that those things are in place, we have a better understanding of things that we can do when sickness goes around. I will tell you something that's happened that is not the answer, but it's definitely a part. Every single classroom now has an electronic component to it. We have an electronic portion to our classrooms. And while it's not the right answer for students to learn online all the time, it is absolutely imperative that they learn how to send emails and get their work when they need to get it made up, and to know how to work electronically. So there's things that have happened to our schools that as we look back, that event is going to be the reason why they've happened. But it's one of those deals where the pandemic had its real challenges, and we've worked our way through.
We really, really have, still navigating through, and as we mentioned, much better shape than we were in 2 years ago. We still want everybody, of course, to be safe out there, but it really brought out, whether it was folks in education like yourself, Mr. McDowell, or whatever, health profession, it brought out the best in people.
People being dedicated to trying to take care of others, that's important. And that dedication, even when people are upset about it, is it's a little bit of a challenge to be able to take some people that want to get mad about it. But caring for people is why we're here, and that's what we do.
How many students do you serve out at Camden Central High School, or approximately?
Well, for us, we have about 515 students that are Camden Central High School students. And then we also have the honor of having the chance to have several students from Big Sandy that come to our building each day. So there's about 60 of them. So depending on who you're talking to, the number is somewhere between 515 and 565, somewhere around in there. That, to me, though, I've listened to Mr. Florence talk so much about these kids are our kids, and it's about our community and our county. And we have about 2,100 students in our community. And so even ones that are in kindergarten, when we're doing things at the high school, we influence what they do. So I count them all as ours. I don't know how to, that may be a wild way to answer it, but all of our kids are watching all of the time. And we want to be able to have the positive influence on them.
I don't mean for this to sound like a dumb question, because, of course, the mission is to teach our students so they'll be well prepared to face life after Camden Central High School and educate them. But in your words, what would be the mission? What would be the mission of Camden Central High School and its staff?
Okay, so we did have a theme this year of take ownership of your learning. But the thing that I want to be able to know is that Camden Central High School has given our kids the chance to be able to chase their dreams. And, the dreams change. What we want to do, what we want to accomplish, what we want to be able to go and be when we grow up, is different for a lot of people. But I want to know that when we have someone that is a young lady that graduates from here and she goes on to get a job and she has children and she wants to be the best mother in the world, we want to be able to give things to help that. And we have some people that want to go out and try to achieve things that are career-oriented. We want to be able to help them do that. We've had some people that have done some pretty neat things. I go back to Paula Cox's daughter, who works as a lawyer up in New York. She's a receiver of the Naismith Award, which is for she was, if I'm not mistaken, that's an award for a rookie lawyer in the New York Stock Exchange. And it's one of the higher awards they get there. We've had people that have gone on to different colleges. We've had one that went to Yale a few years ago. We've had some that have gone on to Johns Hopkins. We've had some people that have gone on to chase their dreams in athletics, including a Super Bowl champion. We've had several people that have gone on to play Division I baseball. We have people that have gone into business and been successful in that sense. I don't know what that looks like for our students when they leave, but the tools of learning while they're there should be something that helps them to learn for all of their life. It's easy for us to see that when people become frustrated and they quit growing, that life is not as much fun. So we want our kids to learn that lesson of learning throughout their life so that there's room for growth all the way through it.
I love the fact if I'm coming into the front doors out at Camden Central High School and start walking down the long hallway toward the gymnasium on the right, the lunchroom on the left, I love walking down the hallway and see the pictures, the gigantic pictures you have now of certain individuals that you've called out. You know, Ryan Holiday, Kerry Arnold, folks like that, Tyler Warren, and that's great. And I hope we can add to that as we go along. And I know you have plans to.
Well, you know, it's one of those deals where you want to celebrate the successes. We try to do that all of the time. It starts every day. If I see something that's happened with one of our students or one of our teachers that is tied to CHS, then we do the hashtag Lion Pride CHS. That is a way for, if it's posted on social media in one of those ways, we tag it with that. My hope is just recording that history for years to come, that when someone looks up hashtag Lion Pride CHS, they can see the many things that have happened across our school system. And then we have times when we actually do a tweet of the day. I haven't done as much of that as I should have. Sometimes I get busier than I should. But we had a learning tweet of the day, a service tweet of the day, and then we had a whole community, learning, community service tweet, and then I think it was a community tweet of the day that we did. That when someone does something that is pretty special, we try to recognize it in that way. But those that we put up on the wall, we've had a few people that have gone on to be really successful. But in order to put them up on the wall at this point, we try to recognize that when it is an apex event in whatever craft they're in. For instance, Tanner Hudson, he got picked up by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back years ago, and we were proud of that, but we didn't put his picture up on the wall. But when he won a Super Bowl championship, that's an apex event in their profession or their craft, and so he's up on the wall. Ryan Holiday has performed with Levon, along with performing when he was younger at the Grand Ole Opry. And for someone that's in music, a Grand Ole Opry event is an apex event in any case. We have Tyler Warren that has been, he has performed in Australia for Queen, and that's pretty apex event when you start to have those kinds of crowds. And then you turn around and you look at Kerry Arnold. She won the Miss Tennessee award. And when you start to look in that craft, to win Miss Tennessee is an apex event. And so we recognize those folks. But I'll tell you, there's so many successes that we don't have room on the wall to be able to put up there that I'd love to be able to recognize in some way.
Yeah. Frank P. Lashley Career and Technical Center right next door to Camden Central High School. Where does that fit into high school education and the relationship you have with that school over there and, the relationship, if you'll explain what it's all about and how it fits with CHS?
That building was put up several decades ago, and it was one of the first in the state of Tennessee to be put up. There was a career and technical center that was tied with a high school. We were one of the first school districts to be tied to that, and that's a really neat part of history that people don't necessarily remember. I do know that over the years, one of the things that occurred that sort of changed the way things looked for a while was the lottery scholarship. The lottery scholarship was put out there, and if someone wanted to be able to go to a college, if they had a 21 on their ACT or such and such a GPA, and then they could qualify for the lottery scholarship. During that time, it was almost as if it was being said that everybody had to go to college. Well, we know right now there are so many jobs that are out there that don't involve going to college, either going through some sort of a certification or going to an apprenticeship or getting some sort of career and technical training that people can go and make a very good living. That is making a strong comeback. And I think in part because our students over the last few years have recognized, you know what, I don't want to spend that many years continuing to go to school right now. I think I want to try to start to make a living now. That may have been part of the product of our pandemic. On top of that, the products that we produce in the United States, we need to be producing more products. Career and Technical is making a strong comeback. It is an equal part to our school in the education of our students.
Do you feel like as we go along now that we're even going to place even greater emphasis on those type of careers, especially with Ford, the Blue Oval coming down a few miles down the road, close to Memphis?
You know, there's zero doubt in my mind that this information age that we're in, students have the chance to be able to say, what do I want to do to go and get an education so that I can start to make a living sooner? The big question is, when are you planning on moving out of the house with mom and dad? When do you need to be able to make a living? How long does that do you need to be able to take to do that? And I think what you're going to see in education is there's going to be more paths where people can begin to make a living and continue to get some education. I think you're going to see that go a long way in this world in the next several years. That's something that I think has to happen, because it can't be a separatist type view. You go career and technical, you get a job, and that's the only job you do forever, or you go to college and you have a chance to be promoted. That's not how this world works anymore. We have good friends of ours that have gone on to be CEOs and executives and things like that by first starting their way all the way up the ladder doing the work at a job.
And when we talk about those fine kids over at the Career and Technical Center who are also students at CHS, in recent years when they've gone to their state and national contests, they've made us very proud. They've brought back numerous awards, Coach, with those type of activities. Those
activities to me are just as important as any that we have going on. There's not always the recognition that goes along with it, but I will tell you that having good craftsmen, people that know how to do their job well, is going to become more and more important as the days go forward. Anybody can pick up a welding stick and start to weld, but when you're relying on that weld to be able to hold your loved ones or on a ride or for safety purposes, you want to make sure that how they do it is important. So recognizing that someone doesn't just know how to do something, but they know how to do it at a high level is really what I think you're going to see employers looking for as we go forward.
Well, time is moving right away from us, and we're past time for a break for our sponsor this morning, our good friends at Apex Bank. Let's take this break right now for Apex, and we'll be back with the second portion of Operation 7570. Stay with us.
Apex Bank of Camden, proudly serving the Benton County community since 1931. In recent years, through growth and expansion, we've taken that same local community spirit into other markets. Today, with over 20,000 customers across Tennessee, our business philosophy remains the same. Local people making local decisions, serving our friends and customers, and investing in the communities that we serve. Here for you yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Apex Bank of Camden, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Welcome back to Operation 7570. Our guest in the studios today is the principal at Camden Central High School, Mr. Shawn McDowell. And as we continue our discussion on activities, things going on at the high school, Mr. McDowell, while it's on my mind, I want to congratulate some students with sport that I found out about this week. Of course, I'm familiar with the conventional sports, football, basketball, baseball, softball, cross country, of course, tennis, things like that. But saw some great news about some kids who are participating in a sport called e-sport. Can you tell me what that's all about?
Well, you and I talking about it for just a minute or two will be just about as much as I know about it. But I do want to talk. I do want to talk about it for just a minute because it's sort of neat how it happened. There were some monies that were given by the federal government to bridge the gap where the loss of learning occurred as students weren't able to do as much during the pandemic. And so that's called ESSER money. And one of the things that each school was challenged to do was to find ways to have enrichment learning take place so that students came to school for extra periods of time. That's part of the summer camp programs that are going on at the elementary schools. Doing things to try to get our students back engaged into learning was important. Well, at the high school, that looks a little different. You've got to find something that they want to be able to do if you're going to start it. So we started looking into ways to get our students engaged in staying after school or doing things in the summer to increase their learning. And we have some programs that they can go and get certifications in. We have some programs that can introduce them to different crafts that they might be interested in, such as computer programming, different CTC subjects that they can learn some things about. And one of the things that came from that was competitive gaming. And that's where esports came from. We were hearing stories about esports. We were hearing about other schools that were having teams that were put together. And so through the help of the ESSER funds, we were able to offer some esports support. We have a teacher that does this, Ms. Gothier. She's been helpful in doing this. And basically, she said, if you're interested in being a part of an esports team, we need to have a meeting. And so they started having meetings, and there's several teams that we have. I think 4, maybe 5. But one of them is the Infinite 22, which is the CHS esports team. And that's, let's see, Landon Dykes, the captain, Hunter Vargas, Jacob Stoner, and Nick Wade. And they've been competing in Halo with other schools throughout the country for the last several weeks. And last night they competed in the semifinals nationally. They came up short. They were about to be playing in the national championship in esports in Halo, but they came up short with it. But it's really been neat to watch how they have embraced not only playing the game, but being models for what we want people to do. They embrace teamwork. Their manners have been just outstanding. They've taken competing there seriously, and they've gotten engaged in working out how to be successful together. Those are the things that we're looking for. And that enrichment program that started with the ESSER program, very, very neat. So I just wanted to congratulate them on what was a successful tournament, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Now, these type of activities, they went over to Bethel, and we appreciate the folks at Bethel for their hospitality, I guess in the preliminary earlier this week. We appreciate that. But these type of activities, Mr. McDowell, do they have somebody monitoring, or is there an official of some sort watching over like we see at a basketball or football game somehow?
Again, yes, there is a team. There's a group that's monitoring the competition and setting up the teams and having this. And our team at one time was ranked number one in the country for a period of time, and they played they played where they competed at that level. So I can't tell you who those folks are. I'm still learning it myself, but pretty neat. I had a talk with them. It reminds me, back in the 50s. Everybody in high school was required to take typing. Later on, that turned into keyboarding when we got computers. And along the way, we've gotten to a point now where there are people that are making a living flying drones. And that industry is going to grow by leaps and bounds. So using some sort of an apparatus that like they're using to drive things, there's actually ways to make a living doing that, and we have people in our community that do make a living doing that. We have people that work for the military service and fly drones. We have people that are starting to do survey using drones and so forth. There's even accounting services for people that work in large amounts of materials, such as the lumber companies or mining or things like that, that will use flying drones as a means of accounting for the amount of material and things like that they use. And now it's being used to help with fertilizing and checking out crops. And so using the same things that these kids are using, there's ways to make a living doing that.
For a moment, back to our conventional sports, football, basketball, baseball, softball, and the other things we're used to. Do you see on down the road that perhaps we might expand our sports programs and bring more, volleyball of course, bring more sanctioned sports, accredited sports by TSSAA into our facility that we may not have right now?
You know, the one thing that I want for our school is that students that come through our school to have the opportunity to be able to, when they leave here, to have had the chance to be able to experience and to find themselves competitive in all the different areas of the world. We are a small rural community, and our sports program may not be as big as others, but we want to make sure they're learning the lessons that they need to. We want to make sure they have the opportunities that they need to. Over the years, we've introduced volleyball, we've introduced cross country, we've introduced track, with this esports. We sort of have to pay attention to where our kids are going and what they're doing. And I will tell you right now that it's important that we have perspective on where we're at, but it's also important that we have perspective about the opportunity we provide for our kids, because we don't want them to be behind because we live in a rural area. And so there's a challenge of trying to keep up with the world, but there's also the challenge of keeping perspective for what our students' needs are.
Yep. You have a wonderful, wonderful staff at Camden Central High School. The faculty out there, the support staff, they have the best interest of the kids at heart. I know you have some faculty members right now that may have a BS or a BA degree. They're taking courses beyond that now, working on master's degrees and above their undergraduate degree.
You know, Flash, I can't speak highly enough for our staff. I don't want to miss any of this, and you can't cover everything that's going on. But if you have a staff that feels like they have a chance to grow, that feels like they want to contribute to the job that they have, then you will have people that will go on to get new certifications. They'll take on new clubs and activities. They'll take on programs that might be part of the state initiatives. They will find ways to be able to contribute to our students. Each one of those are steps of education that go beyond what they learned when they went to college to be at the minimum requirement to be a teacher. And what you want to do is you want to take their strengths and their capabilities and push that envelope a little bit. And we have teachers that are doing that. We have teachers that are going on to get their master's in a subject. I think we have teachers that are going on to get a master's in a subject in foreign language. We have teachers that go on to get their master's in education, sometimes in curriculum instruction and sometimes in administration, so that one day they might have a chance to be an administrator. We have some that are going on to get their certification. The one that's a catch to me is the opportunity for people to become school counselors. Oftentimes, if they're going to be a school counselor, they have to take a year off in order to be able to do that. And that, to me, is really challenging, because a school counselor that has teaching experience is probably something that we need. But we do. We have teachers that are continuing to grow, and that's the challenge that I want all of our staff to have. I'll give you for instance, I can talk about this a little bit. Miss Angela Henry is our bookkeeper, and back several years ago she came over from the junior high and she became our bookkeeper, and we had been keeping our books by computer, and we weren't required to at that time, but that day's coming more and more all of the time. And I told her, I said, we've been doing it that way. I would love for you to do that for a year and stay committed to that. And she did. And she went from just learning how to be a bookkeeper to being one that knew how to do it and knew how to do it for years to come, because she was learning the electronic side. That's someone that in a year later, that first year super challenging, now she's an expert in her field in what she's doing. She does a good job with it. We're proud of what she does. We have teachers that are going on to get their masters. We have teachers that are willing to go to classes to do dual credit training so that we can offer dual credit classes for our students. We have teachers that are willing to take on subjects that they haven't had before and increase their certifications. Every one of those is an opportunity for growth, and I think that's where the health of the culture comes from for our students and for our school.
And it goes without saying, Mr. McDowell, school safety, that is a top priority of you, the administration, and Mr. Florence and everybody at the Board of Education, Department of Education. I mean, hey, school safety with Mr. John Lambright out there, school resource officer, and we just can't say enough about that topic.
Well, I'm a strong believer that Officer Lambright being in our school offers safety that's important, but it also offers that relationship. Our students need to know our police officers and our sheriff's department as someone that is a resource, not as someone to get away from. And that occurs when we have officers in the building. That gives them the chance to see them every day, to have a conversation with them, to get to know them, to have a relationship with them. And that's more important than anything, because when they get out of school, they know people they can go to, but they also have a relationship of what our police officers do and how they work, and so having him in that building is super important. But you know, I'm going to tell you that we have so many things in place to try to keep our students safe. We have the bell ringers that you have to do in order to enter the building. We have monitoring system with cameras and things like that are going on. We have monitoring systems that are checking air quality and all of these things that are going on that are in our building all the time. But the number one thing that you have with safety that you have to have is you have to have people that are willing to speak up when they see that there's concern. If we have someone that walks up to our building, I expect our teachers to say, "Hi there, I don't know who you are. I want to introduce myself. I'm Shawn McDowell. I'm the principal here. What can I do to help you?" Find out who that person is and find out why they're here. Find out, if you see something that's out there that needs to be cleaned up or something that needs to happen. It's the person and the relationships that help keep us safe more than anything. And I think that's the big reason why I'm such an encourager for our teachers to call parents. We want relationships with our parents. We want relationships with our students. We want relationships with our community members, so that when we call in a time of crisis, we already know how each other works together. And that's really important.
Well, here we are into the final few weeks of the 2021-2022 school year. Mr. McDowell, graduation looming just in the middle part of May. So What about some information right now? And I've already gotten a graduation invite or two in the mail. So when is graduation at CHS? And shed some light on those type of things.
Make sure I get my dates right. I got to look at my calendar.
I understand.
But at the same time, I know when it is, but I don't know the numbers all the time. So let me look here. Go. Okay, so it is May the 20th. Okay, that is graduation for Camden Central High School. It'll be at 7:30. I had someone that called last night and says, "Why do you do it at 7:30?" I said, "Well, we are one of the school districts in the state that our school board members think of that as an important enough event that they go to Big Sandy's graduation and to Camden's graduation. So we have school board members at both graduations. And so Big Sandy has graduation at 6 o'clock. We have graduation at 7:30. And I had someone calling yesterday saying, "Isn't that a little late to have graduation?" And I said, "That's the way we've done it for years." And it goes back to the importance of having our officials there for something that is an extremely important event for our students. So we're proud to have that. It is going to be outdoors. It will be just like we've done the last 2 years. We found that when we do a drawing for our students so that their guests know where they're going to sit, we don't get into that fuss and fight of having people trying to get there 3 hours early so that they can get specific seats so that they can see their child graduate. You can have grandparents or whoever it is that's your guests. They can come 15 minutes before graduation, and their seat is still there for them. And so we have a drawing. That'll be this next Friday. It'll be on Facebook Live about the seats for our different graduates and where their families will be able to sit. The graduates and their guests will be on the football field, and they'll be spread out across the field. Then one of the things that we're doing with graduation this year that we've challenged our staff to be a part of is our teachers are being asked to be at graduation and be on the stage with us when our students go across the stage. Our stadium is our stage, and it's been a very honorable event for graduation to have it the way we've had it. Sometimes people say graduation is a celebration to say you're finished, but I always have to teach our students as we start to talk about getting into their robes and things, what that means. Everybody there has the same cap and gown. The cap and gown is a recognition that they've met the requirements to be able to graduate. Anything that they wear other than their cap and gown, that is a cord or anything like that, is a depiction of something that is an academic achievement. We might have someone that receives a Beta Club stole. They can't get that Beta Club stole unless they've had the academic achievement to be able to wear that stole. So our uniforms or our cap and gown are the one time that we have a reflection of only academic achievement, and that is what that cap and gown represents. We have people that say, "Can I have something that says that I played basketball or football or whatever?" And we have events where we recognize what they do athletically, but the cap and gown is a reflection of their academic achievements, and so we have that going on, and I think it's just such a wonderful thing when we pay honor to the work that we're here for. And so that cap and gown and what they're allowed to wear and being there and it being an event where we pay honor to the students for what they've achieved is really important. And that's the reason why we're keeping it limited in numbers. That's the reason why we're trying to make sure that it's not a free-for-all where people are shooting off fireworks or doing things like that in order to celebrate someone walking across the stage. This is an academic achievement. It's not just a milestone in time.
Well, with less than a month before these kids walk across the football stadium at Camden Central High School to get their high school degree, a diploma, going out to the big world out there, and even our friends at Big Sandy who will be graduating on the same night. You know, a lot of those seniors down there, Mr. McDowell. So what will be your advice to this group of seniors leaving and the things they've had to overcome the last couple of years and as they get ready to move on beyond high school? Give me some good advice.
So, you got me with that question because there's one in particular that stays really close to my heart. I have a daughter, Chloe, that's graduating. And so that's my youngest child. That'll be my last child graduating. And that is an exciting moment for her. And so the advice that I would give these students is to hopefully have fond memories of things that happened to them while they were in high school. To use those memories as the fond ones, as a foundation that makes it where they want to make more of those memories for themselves going forward, and to continue to grow, continue to learn, and always to treat others as they want to be treated. If they'll do those things, you're going to find out that along with a little faith, you can keep your best days in front of you all the way through your life.
Is it rewarding to look back on these kids each year that leave and see what productive young adults they've become a few years down the road? Like Luke Crutchfield, I guess, class of 2015. Is it fun to look back and to see how rewarding it is to see the differences that they're making in our world and our community now?
It's something that we count on as we get older. We depend. We don't just want to see it. We depend on others to be able to take up the baton and carry it and make sure that things are taken care of.
Mr. McDowell, it's been a pleasure this morning. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you giving up some of your Saturday morning to be with us. Always a pleasure to work with you and the fine folks out at Camden Central High School. And do you have a closing word?
You know, I say you know every time I've answered a question today, haven't I? I will tell you this. I haven't had the chance to be on this show before, but I've had the chance to be interviewed with you for years, and it's always been a pleasure. And I want to say thank you to the radio station and to our community who listens. And I also want to say thank you to our teachers, our staff, our students, and all of them for the opportunity that I've had as a principal to be able to be a part of this. My role is just a part, but at the same time, it's quite an honor. So thank you for the opportunity today, and thank you for what you do for our kids.
Well, thank you, and we'll have you back on down the road again.
Good to see you again, sir.
Always good to see you.
And thank you, Luke.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our program this morning, Operation 7570. Thank you so much for being with us. We've been brought your way by our friends at Apex Bank. We'll see you next Saturday morning. Stay tuned next for Luke Crutchfield with the Bargain Auction. Have a great weekend, everybody.
For more than 85 years, Apex Bank of Camden has built a tradition of local people serving local people. Although there have been changes over